gracious. Okay, good. Hey, y'all. Shantae here. I hope you're enjoying a beautiful, blessed day. And you know what? There it is. Okay, now I hope you guys can still hear me. I am using my blue snowball because there seems to be some kind of an echo when I am doing this. So actually, hold on here. Let me do a quick test. Hello. Perfect. Okay. Making sure that like you guys can still hear me and everything because it's the second time I'm doing this. So want to make sure I get it right. Now, good to have you here with me. I am back for more, and I hope you are ready for more too, because I am here to help you to understand why your relationships are pretty much the same as they've been. You know, have you been experiencing that you tend to make the same mistakes in your relationships, or you seem to almost date the same person in a different body, right? I've heard that from my clients before, like, oh, he seems so great, but then he turned into my ex. Not a good thing. There's a reason why you ended up not with your ex. So I realized yesterday I didn't really tell too much about why it's so important to understand your romantic relationship style. And it's because without knowing your romantic relationship style and being able to identify the romantic relationship style of the other person, you're more likely to keep meeting men who aren't in a unstable relationship. You're unable to remain in relationships with men who do not value you, who are emotionally unavailable. They have issues with intimacy, with closeness. The closer you want to get, the further they seem to get, right? Got a lot of push-pull going on. You spend a lot of time agonizing and guessing and thinking and just honestly bogging down a lot of your mental processes and obsessing over every little thing and to find clues about how he really feels about you and if he really likes you and he said this but he does that, so what did he mean? That sort of stuff is going on a lot. And after all that, you go through all that over and over and sometimes over again, you still end up feeling alone and confused and wondering, what did I do wrong? How did I do this wrong? I was paying attention, I was doing this and that, and you feel like a failure, right? Because you couldn't get it right again. You somehow lost a good guy again. And you're wondering if there's something inherently wrong with you. Okay. And I'm here to say no. There's nothing wrong with you, boo. You are doing everything you should be doing. You're following out and carrying out your relationship style, but you have no idea what has gone into creating that relationship style. And that's why you're experiencing this over and over. And with your, like a lot of my clients, in order to fix that problem, right? In order to get over and through all that, you do all the things. You talk to your friends, which is good and important, right? You want friends. You want a stable and, loving friendships with people who really love you and they get you. Problem with that is they're going to give you the feel goods because they want you to feel good. They love you. They want you to succeed, but they may not know how to help you do that. And you read all the relationship blogs and the books, and you might, listen to a podcast or a couple and when that happens, you get some great info, but a lot of times it's conflicting. So one moment you're supposed to share everything about yourself and your needs and all that. And on the other hand, you're not. You're supposed to be selective about what to share and when to share and how to share, and creates a lot of inner dialogue and confusion. That's already going on, right? Not helpful. You also might use unfavorable dating apps and sites that do more to hurt your self-esteem than to actually help it. Based on those algorithms, you either get hooked up with people that you're not physically attracted to, or you're hooked up with people that unfortunately may not be physically attracted to you. And that's kind of as far as it goes. Really hard to get into the nitty gritty and the details of who that person is and if they're really going to fit with who you are and what's going on in your life relating to those apps. You might also depend on your friends and your family to hook you up with someone, and that's great too. The problem with that is a lot of times they tend to hook you up with people kind of like on their own agenda. It might be, their cousin's best friend and he's a great guy, but is he really the greatest guy for you? Or is it just you're both two single people, so they think you should be together and just automatically, mesh up and fall in love? Well, it's not how it happens. And you might decide to seek out a therapist, some professional help to work through your childhood traumas, right? And to go down deep in the rabbit hole of why and how you are the way you are, which, hey, is super helpful to know that info. But again, not so great for helping you attract and meet a person who's actually worth your time and attention. Working on yourself is lovely. I am not saying don't do that. I'm all for it. And I definitely help people to do that as well. But there are certain applicable, practical things that you can do in the meantime. And while you're doing that, like knowing your relationship style, that helps you to actually move from point A to point Z to get to where you want to be and where you want to go. So if you're done with all that, if you're ready to experience something more, I think so. I hope so. It's the spirit of that hope that got me on here talking with you yesterday and today. Yesterday, I brought up the adult attachment style as one of the elements of the romantic relationship style that everyone falls into. Quick recap. Those romantic relationship styles are the Chihuahua, the German Shepherd, the Alaskan Malamute, and the Doberman Pinscher. But besides just going right into descriptions about that, I found it's been more beneficial for people to actually understand the elements of what make those up, because then you can start to kind of pull out what is happening for you and how you're showing up in your relationships. So then when you actually get the description, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes when you get the description, you're like, that's not me, that's not me. But once you understand the elements that went into creating each relationship style, then you start to get and pull out why you are that relationship style. Cool. So that's why it's done this way. Now today, I'm actually going to be sharing with you some of the 4 love blocks. This is the second element of the romantic relationship style. The 4 love blocks are 4 specific thoughts and beliefs about love and relationships that are blocking and stopping you from experiencing the long-term, secure, safe, and healthy relationship that you deserve and that you desire to have. So I'm going to be sharing with you those 4 love blocks and how they show up for you in your life. Now, you might have one of them, you might have all of them, you might have just a few, but listen with an open mind so that you can start to understand these 4 love blocks. There are reasons why these blocks have occurred and why they've been created over time. Due to time constraints, I'm not going to go into all that right now, but hold on, let me get through this part and I'll be back to tell you how you can start to know more about the love blocks, how they were created, why they were created, and most importantly, how to work through them so that they're eliminated. All right, cool. So let's go on to learning more about that. So the first love block is that love hurts. And it shows up as a makeup to breakup cycle. You've known these couples. They get together and then they're not together. They get together and then they're not together. And they seem to kind of enjoy that love-hate relationship. They don't really, but it's what they know. Because when they grew up, when they came out and they start learning about romantic relationships, that's what they saw. And that's what was normalized. That love is supposed to hurt. You're supposed to feel some angst and some anxiety and some fears regarding love and your relationships. It can also show up as abuse, not just physical abuse, but mental, emotional, yes, and physical abuse. And by physical abuse, I do mean yelling, hurtful comments as well. That's very common and normal when you have this block in your life. And the abuse can also be in the form of neglect. Someone who's not sharing or reciprocating their feelings of support, trust, admiration, esteem. Maybe they're giving constant criticisms. Maybe there's put downs. Sometimes it's a backhanded compliment. So even just like a lack of basic respect and any of those other components that you would find in a healthy relationship, that does equal emotional and mental abuse. So if that's what you're experiencing, if that's something that tends to come up for you, this is likely your love block or one of them. We're going to go into love block number 2 is I need to be perfect. I need to have my life in line or in balance. Before I can be loved or before I can experience love. I just recently spoke with someone earlier this week who was telling me about how she needed to get her life in line. She needed to make sure she was good and okay before she could really go forth and try to put herself out there, which I get, right? Because that's kind of like what society tells us. You need to be great. You need to have all your shit lined up. You need to be on point. But that's not realistic. And that's not reality, right? Because there's always going to be something that's going to be off kilter or that you're going to be working on. So you'll never end up perfect, and neither will your life, loves. Just saying, right? You'll spend a lot of time trying to work to be the perfect person and partner and think you need to have the perfect emotional and mental states. It means you can't be a work in progress. And if you can accept yourself as a work in progress, then how in the heck are you going to accept somebody else who is, guess what? A work in progress. Just saying. All right. It also shows up as you thinking you need to have the perfect job, or you need to make a certain amount of money. Oh, I can't be with anybody until I'm, making at least 6 figures, and then I can focus on a relationship. I understand and I get wanting to further yourself financially and, be a successful career person. However, and again, that could take a while. And when you're taking all that while, you're actually allowing people who are compatible with you and who could actually help make that work easier for you. You're keeping them out of the picture. You're not even allowing them in your space. And that, my loves, is a block. Now, love block number 3, it shows up as I need to do something big or important or major. You need to be somebody big. You need to have your name out there and lights and camera, and not saying you need to be in Hollywood or, you need to be Instagram famous, but you do believe that it's really your accolades, your titles, your position that makes you almost worthy of love. That makes you, more likely for someone to want to choose you to be with you. And yes, there are those people who are out there trolling around looking for someone who has all of those things. Is that really someone you want? Let's just be real about that, okay? If that's what somebody's looking for and that's what someone equates to having someone that's worth loving, is that what you really want? Because what happens if you lose it? What happens if you lose that job? What happens if you don't get that promotion? What happens if the company tanks? There's a lot of things that occur in life. And if that means if you're basing your ability or your worthiness of love and being loved on something like that, that's transient and can change, well, then it means, love, that relationship is likely going to leave the building once that money, once that position, once that title is no longer yours. So yes, that is a definite love block. And finally, love block number 4, that love isn't even real, that it doesn't exist, that it can't be trusted, that it's just for the fools out there in life. So that means you have short, superficial relationships because you don't believe that people can really love each other anyway. People, these people, they date a lot of people. They always seem to be going on dates, but they never really have anyone serious sticking with them, right? They treat love like it's a cosmic joke out there for fools. Like, oh, I'll never fall in love. Oh, those people are stupid, or love isn't real, right? Love is a trick for people who don't know any better and they don't trust it. And because they believe people always let you down, that you can't trust people that say they love you because ultimately they're out there for their own gain. And they don't trust that somebody could truly love and accept and be there for them. So they're not going to even try. And they end up doing that to other people. They end up being the person that people can't trust, that people can't be around, and that they end up letting down their potential partners. So yeah, they never get to have that relationship. So of course, there's the evidence that love doesn't exist, right? They're playing into it. And while they're doing that, they're putting up this wall in this front, and they become an F-boy or a player or a thought. You know what I'm saying? I know you do. So this is how the 4 love lies show up. And be honest. Start thinking about which of these rings true for you. Which of these can you start to see yourself as having or experiencing in your life and in your romantic relationships? Because let's be real, let's go back to that first issue, right? Of what happens when you don't know your romantic relationship style. You end up experiencing the same things over and over and over again in your romantic relationships. You're meeting men who aren't interested in creating a strong, stable relationship. You're remaining in relationships with men who don't value you. They're emotionally unavailable. They have issues with intimacy. You spend a lot of time thinking and focusing and agonizing and rehashing every little thing to find out clues about how he really feels about you, or clues, honestly, on how you need to be so you can influence how he feels about you. And you spend a lot of time after all that being alone and confused still, because you can't figure out what you did wrong. You thought you were doing it all good, and it ended up not working out again. So if you're ready to stop that cycle, go ahead and comment, I'm ready. And if you're a little shy, that's okay. You can DM me, I'm ready. I'm going to send you a link to my free masterclass where I go into this into more detail, where I go into the adult attachment styles into more detail, and when I'm going to go into the third and final element, core beliefs, so that you can understand how all these things relate to one another and how they're creating your romantic relationship style, your specific style, the Chihuahua, German Shepherd, the Alaskan Malamute, or the Doberman Pinscher style, which explains why this is happening to you. And even better, I'm going to share with you some actionable tips and actionable steps that you can take so you can start to change that up right away. Also, if you're still interested, I will send you the link to the adult attachment style questionnaire that is fully validated. That means it's scientifically backed. It's not something that I just made up out of the air. Okay, it has been validated, and you'll get a quick report about your attachment style. So you can start doing some research yourself. There's stuff out there about that. I'm not making any of this up, but I have found that when you start applying all of these 3 key elements in a specific process, you're able to then attract and create long-term, fulfilling, sustainable, stable, safe, loving companionship with an emotionally mature and available partner. And I think that's what ultimately we all kind of want in life, right? Because things are easier with someone to share your troubles with, and things are more fun when you have someone to share the good times with as well. And it's definitely much more enriching a life when you have a partner who is there for you 120%, and you have no qualms or questions about them or your relationship. I'm telling you guys, I have been on the other side of all that, and this side is much nicer. So come join me over here. Okay, get in touch with me. I love you. Thank you so much for your time, and I will be talking with you soon. Bye for now, Earth Angels.